If you are carrying credit card balances from month to month, I need you to stop everything that you are doing right now and listen closely to this video. Why? Because yesterday's Federal Reserve decision on increasing interest rates by 25 percentage points is going to cost you much more than you could ever imagine. So if you really want to understand what that means, come on into the room. Let's go.
The Debt Demolisher TV with Sophia Meloni.
Hi everyone, it's Sophia Meloni, the Debt Demolisher, here to bring you the tools, tips, and tricks to help you manage your financial baggage the right way. Today's episode is going to be a very important one because we're going to be talking about the latest decision by the Federal Reserve, which is the U.S. Central Bank, that has decided to increase its interest rates by another 25 basis points. Now, you may be wondering two things. Why does this even matter? Like, why did they do it? And how is that going to impact me? So the reason why the Federal Reserve has been increasing the interest rates over time is to help with taming inflation. We all know that we have been battling the challenges of inflation with the cost going up in our food, in our gas, in our clothing, and all of our essentials that we need to survive. We have been seeing the impacts of the rising costs, which is inflation, that's been impacting the economy. And so what the Federal Reserve's role is to do is to regain control over the economy to bring things back into a more stable position. We know that when it comes to fluctuations in the economy and in the marketplace, it does not tame overnight. So it's a process. So believe it or not, this is the 8th time that the Federal Reserve has had to increase the interest rates. So let me explain what that means. The Federal Reserve is essentially the U.S. Central Bank, and they have a responsibility for setting the federal funds rate, which is the rate at which banks can borrow from each other overnight. We know that the banks borrow money in order to be able to lend money to us as consumers so that we can borrow it and then we pay the interest on it so that the bank can make their money. When interest rates go up, the cost to consumers also go up. When interest rates go down, the cost to consumers goes down as well. So we know when the pandemic happened, the Federal Reserve slashed interest rates and then dropped it down so low. I know I took advantage of it back in 2020. I sure did. Yes, I did. Not only did the interest rates go down for borrowing, but the interest rates also went down for saving. When we go into the space of them increasing the interest rates, the same thing happens, but on the flip side. So the cost of borrowing goes up as well as the cost of savings goes up as well. So here's what I need you to really understand. If you are someone who is carrying credit card balances from month to month and you have been paying interest on your credit cards or for any loan for that matter, I need you to be really, really attentive to what these charges are because, believe it or not, in a couple of months, it's going to hike up if you don't pay down those credit cards. But the challenging and the disheartening reality for us to face is that many households has had to rely on credit cards, especially during these hard times, because the inflation has had a tremendous impact on everyday household budgets. We've been accustomed to paying a price for one particular thing, but with costs going up across the board and our salaries aren't increasing in commensurate to that same level, of course you're going to end up with a deficit and you're going to have to find a way to supplement that difference. And oftentimes the credit card limits that we have end up being that resort. I remember the times when I did not know how to manage my money well. I remember the times when I relied on credit cards because that is what I was taught. I remember the times where I would have to pay interest on my credit card balances because I didn't really understand the cost that I was giving up at that moment in time. And so I know what it feels like to have to rely on a credit card in order to get your needs met. I know what it feels like to have to pull out a credit card in order to pay for the replacement of a flat tire. I know what it feels like to have to pull out a credit card to purchase groceries because you didn't have enough left over from the cash that you had after paying all of your bills. I know what it's like to pull out a credit card in order to get those necessary things, those detrimental things that you need, not only for yourself, but for your family and for your loved ones. So take it from me. I know I have been in that place of credit card shame. I have been in that place of maxed out credit cards. I have been in that space of paying astronomical amounts of interest on my credit. But here is what I need you all to understand in this video today. This is a video to help you guys understand the cost of borrowing and borrowing in this season. And so if you don't take anything else from this video, anything else from any of the lessons on the Debt Demolisher TV, what I really want to encourage you all to do is focus on debt elimination in this season. I need you to focus on getting your credit card balances down, because if you don't, you are definitely going to see a hike in your interest rates within the next 2 to 3 billing cycles. Now, why am I saying this? I'm saying this because now that the interest rates have increased on the Federal Reserve side, that now means that the banks are going to increase the rates that they have, not only on the new loans that you may take out, but also on your existing credit cards that have a variable interest rate. We all know that 99% of the credit cards that are out here right now have a variable interest rate assigned. So the interest rate is not fixed. And what this means is the interest rate fluctuates with the market. And when the interest rates fluctuates with the market, you are going to see the interest rate change based on the purchases that you've made on your credit cards, especially if you have balances that are carrying forward. So here's a little exercise that I want you to do while you begin to internalize this lesson on today. I want you to go back and take a look at your last 12 months of credit card history. I want you to go through each and every credit card account that you have. Pull up, if you have access to it, your year-to-date summary, because not only will your year-to-date summary tell you all of the transactions that you spent within a year, it's also going to tell you how much interest you were charged within the last 12 months. I know that I just got at least 3 of my year-end statements for 2022, so I'm pretty sure your credit card company has probably sent you one as well. So make sure that you log into your accounts, check your emails, check your statements inside of your online accounts when it comes to your credit cards, and look for that year in review statement. And that way you'll be able to see every single thing that you charged in a year and what that interest rate was assessed within a 12-month time frame. This is going to be a huge eye-opening for a lot of you all when you actually begin to see how much you are paying for the things that you're charging on your credit card, how much you are paying for the things that you are choosing not to pay in full within the 30-day window after you have actually made those charges on the card. So when you look at this exercise, just jot it down, make a list, name each credit card, put the interest charges in the last 12 months, what that was for each card, and I want you to tally it up. When you tally it up, let me know what your number is. And if you don't want to put it in the comments, you can send it to me in an email. You can go to sophiamelanie.com/let's-connect. I'll make sure that I put the link down in the description box and in the DDTV toolbox for you to be able to access it. But if you want to share that information with me personally, I would love to know. Now, after you've tallied up your interest charges for the last 12 months, make sure that you keep that to the side. I also want you to go to your most recent bank statement and look at what the interest rate charges are on your last statement, because that's going to give you your most recent interest rate, which is the APR, your annual percentage rate that's charged on your credit cards. But they'll give you the breakout of how your interest rates are being assigned. So when you look at your interest rates, I need you to pay attention to how it's going to change over the next 2 to 3 cycles. Because of this federal interest rate reserve, what's going to happen is you're going to see a spike, and this spike is going to impact so many. Based on a recent study, the variable interest rates at its highest right now is anywhere between 19 to 20%. Yes. And we all know that the lower your credit score, the more interest that you have to pay. So that's another conversation that we're going to talk about later on in this video. But I want you to pay attention to how much interest rates are right now on the high side. With the highest being 19 to 20%, that's a lot. And to see that this interest rate hike that's been imposed by the Federal Reserve, how it's going to impact your interest rates in the coming months. A study has said that it's going to cost consumers anywhere to around $1.6 billion in interest alone, and in 2023 alone. Woo! I need you to grab that. I need you to hear that. And I need you to focus on how you're not going to have yourself be a part of that pool. So let's focus on getting these credit cards paid down as soon as possible. Now, you may be wondering, Sophia, how am I going to pay down my credit cards when I can't even stop using them? Here is where your budgeting is going to come into practice. Here is where your temporary sacrifice is going to have to come into play. Unless you're okay with paying hundreds of thousands of dollars on interest, unless you're okay with being a part of that pool that's going to end up spending $1.6 billion in interest alone in 2023, unless you are okay with continuing on your habit, I have to stress the importance of planning out your money on a consistent basis. Now, I can go on and on and on when it comes to this topic, but the most important piece that I need you to get today is identifying the interest charges that you've incurred thus far over the last 12 months and looking at your budgeting plan so that you can begin to develop a strategy to reduce your credit card debt. Because this lesson is going to continue on in part 2 as I continue to explain how the Fed interest rate increases will impact student loans, personal loans, and then even some additional strategies that you can take with the debt reduction side of the house, and what you may even actually be able to do to leverage your credit cards to help you do that. So make sure that you like, comment, subscribe. If you have not done so on the way in, make sure that you do so on the way out. And remember, your financial prosperity awaits you, and so does your financial sanity. You already know what I'm gonna tell you to do, and that's what? Get to work. All right, see you for part 2. Bye.
The Debt Demolisher TV with Sophia Meloni. The Debt Demolisher TV with Sophia